Hello and welcome to Jamie TV, streaming 100% live on YouTube and trying really hard not to pissy pants about. Thank you for joining me. Let's have a look who's here in the chat. We have hello Samuel, hello Joe, been jamming since birth, thank you for being here. Hello Vortex. Oh wow, thank you very much. Excuse me sniffing, I have an incredibly sniffy nose. Let me just mute my mic while I have a good sniff. And I lost my cans. These headphones, by the way, are knackered. And now my hair's a mess. Look at that. Yeah, sorry, I've got a really runny nose today. So if I keep muting my mic, that's why. That is my first ever. Is that a super chat? I think it's a super chat. It's the first one I've had, so don't really. It's blue, so thank you very much, Vortex. Anyway, hi Paul, thanks for being here. Well, we should sample the sneezes, apparently, according to Samuel. Well, how is everyone? Are we all well? Let me know in the chat how you're all doing. I really appreciate you all joining me. I want to show you Altezza. I've actually had it now for maybe a few weeks because it's a reverb that everybody talks about and everybody says you should have, and I just never got around to getting it. And I've had it, I've used it a few times. I've not really kind of got to the bottom of exactly how it works, and that's why I've not done a video or a stream on it yet, because I like to sort of have a reasonably okay idea of what I'm talking about before I start wobbling on about stuff. So I started off with a little jam there with which some of it went okay, with some things that I've been pissy pantsing around with while I've been waiting for the stream to start. And so I'm going to show you what I've got here. So maybe I should just kind of mute a few things off. Most of it worked reasonably well, some of it didn't. Okay, so we have, I'm going to just mute this and this, and Okay, I'll stop that for a moment. Okay, so here's what's going on here. I've got, take this out, and I'll take Altezza out for a moment. We've got, in fact, I'll take Rhino out as well. Right, so here's my clean guitar. And if I just mute my mic for a moment so you can hear what that's like without the my voice mic pick. Okay, put Rhino back in. So I've just used Rhino to give me a nice kind of clean, clear sound, which it is very, very good at. But when you see the advertising, you would think that it's really just a kind of a thrash thing. Excuse me just a little moment here. Sorry, I just had to have a good sneeze. Hopefully that's kind of cured my problem for a while. Okay, so we have Rhino for a nice clear guitar amp sound, and then ignore A12 for a moment. So then I've got Altezza here. Which sounds wonderful, right? We'll dig into that in a moment. I'll just show you what else I've got in my project here. So what I've also got is you can use a sidechain function with Altezza, and it will make the ducking happen. I'll explain all about how it works in a bit, but that's what this is here. I'm using hammerhead as a signal. If I just put hammerhead back in carefully and press play, because I've got to press play for it to happen, right? But we're not hearing hammerhead. I just used hammerhead because it's got its own sequencer, so it's easier, right? So I took that out like that, and so this signal is coming from here into the ducking section of Altezza. So if I press stop, then the ducking stops. Press play. Okay. What's that, Samuel? A tempo track for Cubasis? Yes, I've been asking for that since I very first got into mobile music stuff, because I got, what did I do? When I got into mobile music stuff, I got this old iPad Air. I had a pissy pants around with GarageBand, decided I wanted something a bit more. I wanted something with a mixing desk, basically. So I got Aurea, and never really kind of got on with it very well, because it's just, for me, it's always been like just crash, crashty crash. So then I found Cubasis 2 and really liked it, because it just worked. It didn't have a lot of the things that Aurea had, but it just worked. And but one thing that it didn't have, or two things that it didn't have that I really wanted, was I wanted to be able to export something in mono, and I wanted a tempo track, and I've been pestering for them ever since. And now we have Cubasis 3, and it has lots of wonderful, marvelous features, and they keep adding to it, and they keep working on it, and it's actually now very good. It has a bad rap, but it is very good. But I still not got a tempo track, and I still can't export in mono, unfortunately. But anyway, right, so sorry, can't be helped. Right, so forgot what I was on about. Okay, yeah, so that's right. So that's Hammerhead making the reverb pump effectively. And then what I've done is I've put A to M in here. So this is converting my audio into MIDI and sending it to Waverly. So if I just mute my guitar, because that MIDI signal is still coming across here, I can take the mute off Waverly. And I'm using this sound here, Pulsar Shimmer Chorale. I think that's how you pronounce that. Yeah, okay, so that's that. So I've got that in the background against the guitar. Now what I also wanted was, I wanted to use the choir in mellow sound. Right? But it's a bit hit and miss. It's sort of, I don't know why. I mean, I'm using it in exactly the same way as I'm using Waverly, but it's a bit single notes seems to be alright. Right, now I wanted to save on some processing power, so what I did was I wanted, obviously because I'm talking about Altezza today, so I wanted Altezza on everything. So I sent Waverly and mellow sound to this bus A here, which has Altezza on it, by using these kinds of bus sends. So that's what I have in my project. See, I think I'm going to abandon that idea, to be honest. I'm going to mute that one off. Right, so in fact I'll leave those unmuted and let's come back over here. I'll stop that playing and I'm going to go through Altezza properly for you. So, but before I do that, let's just check in with the chat. Yes, you are right, Vortex. No door is perfect, but you've really been enjoying Cubasis 3 and the updates. Yeah, you know what? I think Cubasis 3 is on the whole great now. You know, I just want that tempo track and mono export, and then we'd be somewhere like on his way to having a proper digital audio workstation on iOS. But also, what I'd really like is I'd like iOS to stop screwing up, because I was on 13.6 and everything was fine. Everything worked. It was all good. And I held back and I held back, and eventually I didn't have to update, but it got to 14.7 and people said it was better than 14.6. And so I updated, because I just started to feel like I was really getting kind of left pretty far behind, and the new LumaFusion update looked really exciting and I really wanted that, and I couldn't get that unless I went on to 14. So I updated to 14.7, and ever since I've had issues, I've had problems. Not so much with audio stuff actually, but with video stuff it's an absolute nightmare. I've been working on a video for segments for the last few days, but like I finished the video ages ago. Sort of 2/3 of my time has just been pissy-panting around with LumaFusion trying to get it to export the video, It's a nightmare. And what I'm actually doing is far less complicated than some of the videos that I've done before on iOS 13, and it was no problem at all. So yes, Vortex, do not move from 13.7. Honestly, was it 13.7? I thought it was 13.6, but whatever, don't move off it. Honestly, if it works, do not be tempted, young man. Right, I want to go through Altezza after I've just wiped my nose again. Excuse me. My apologies, that's most embarrassing, but just sort of like a few minutes before it was time to stream, my nose just started doing that sort of, you know, tap thing. Anyway, so Altezza. What have we got here? We've got essentially 3 sections. Plus down here we've got some presets. I could play through the presets for you, but I'd rather show you how it works. So it says it's on the initialized setting, but it's not, because I've been arsing about with it. So what we have is up here we've got, in fact, let me just kind of reduce a few things down. Let's just get put that to off, and let's just, actually I think that'll be alright as it is. Okay, so over here we have a control which, if I wind it all the way around to the left, the reverb is mono. The more I wind it round to the right, the more stereo it gets. So I've just been leaving it all the way around to stereo because it sounds absolutely fantastic. Doug, you're not updating for a good while. I thought you were right up to date, sir. Oh, hi Josh, thank you for being here. Right, so yeah, I've just been leaving that on stereo because it sounds wonderful. And if you can have stereo like that, well, why would you wind it round to mono? I'm not sure. Okay, so now here we have a high pass filter. Now this is really, really useful when you are playing some guitar stuff. Now I've had the high pass filter kind of wound all the way around to this side, so I've got all the lows in at the moment, because I was just playing on my own, right? So I'm not clashing with anything. But as soon as you start putting some other instruments in there, you may want to start winding off some low ends. So in fact, let me just really show you what it does by winding it all the way up, right? So now I'm going to turn up the wet so you can really hear that tail. Right, so that reverb tail, there's no low end to it at all. Turn it back down a bit. Now if I put the low back in, you'll see what I mean. One of the biggest problems people have when it comes to mixing is too much low end on reverbs. Right, now here, this control will don't you just love that? I love doing that. Okay, so this will determine the size of the reverb from small to big. Nice clear words for stupid hippies. So what I want to show you is that if you keep it on it, because Altezza sounds the way it does, because it sounds so wonderful when you use a huge reverb tail and use the shimmery section and everything, it tends to be thought of perhaps as being a reverb for that kind of music, for ambient stuff, maybe experimental stuff. But you can actually bring it down to a nice small reverb like this, and you can use it, bring down the wet. You could use it for just for, you know, a simple instrument, a clean choppy guitar, for drums, for whatever you want. So it's a versatile reverb is what I'm trying to say. Right, now here's your diffusion. Let me bring the size of the reverb up again, and I'm going to bring the diffusion all the way down to minimum and just play a chord. Oh, I want to bring that wet back up a bit, don't I? Alright, now I'll bring it up a bit. I'm going to make the size of the reverb a bit more. There, okay. And as I bring that diffusion up more, I think somewhere around here it's quite wonderful. Okay, right. Checking on the chat. Vortex is scared of iOS 14. Yeah, I'm just scared of running out of cake. Okay, and here is the modulation. Now the modulation has rate and depth. So if I just turn the rate up really high so you can hear what we're talking about. Right, so there's some modulation for you. I turn the depth up so it really takes over the sound. Right, now if I bring that rate down kind of fairly low, you can hear it creates a kind of a chorusy sort of a sound. Bring the depth down as well. The more I bring it down, the more you kind of fade it back into the reverb. But it's really effective. Okay, so that is section 1. Now, the one thing I don't fully, totally, utterly, massively understand is that you can alter the number of filters in each stage. Now at the moment I have the filter set at 1 filter for each stage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the reverb and then I'm going to come back to that. But I better just check the time because, right, okay. I'll try not to piss your pants about too much so I don't run out of time. Okay, so we're going to skip the middle section and go over to section 2, I think. Or are we? Let's do this bit of section 2. Okay, so this bit's really simple. We've got 2 volumes here. If I bring these all the way down, you're only hearing my guitar strings from my vocal mic. I can turn up the dry, which will be completely unaffected. And this is just a really nice way to blend in both signals, you know, rather than kind of having like a mix knob that takes you somewhere between the two. I like it this way. This is really cool. So I can have just wet bring up the dry. It's actually quite nice doing stuff with the guitar when you take all the dry out. And you lose that attack on the strings. It makes it kind of like a synthy kind of a sound. Okay. Now, I was talking about the ducking earlier, and I probably should have just not mentioned that and just done that later, but you know. So what I've got here is, I've got a hammerhead giving me a kick drum, and that's all it's doing. If we have a look at hammerhead, that's all I've put in here, just a 4 on the floor, and when I press play, we can hear that 4 on the floor. But we don't want to hear it, so I'm just taking it out like that. Now here what I did was, and it did take me a minute to figure out how to do this, I have to be honest. So you go into an effects slot, and you actually, I can show you by doing it on this one. So you go to the multi-bus instances, and then you pick an instance of Altezza, and then you click at the side here where it gives you a little number, and then it asks you where you want to send it to, right? And there are two options, because you can use this either to have a separate mix bus for this section, or you can use it to send I pressed the wrong thing, or you can use it to send to the side chaining function to make the ducking pump, right? So so that's how I've got this set. So that's set like this. It's going to Altezza auxiliary, and so what it's doing, oh, I've got that one round to wet to off. Right, stupid hippie. Okay, so how much we want it to duck, we determine with this control here. Off is round here, so the more I wind it round to the left, the more obvious the ducking is. If anyone doesn't know what ducking is, by the way, it's when we, oh, am I going to be able to explain this without, am I going to be able to explain this and stay fashionable? Let me think. Okay, so what, imagine this is your reverb tail, right? Where's this going? This is your reverb tail, and you play a note. If you've got your ducking set right, then the reverb tail, it just kind of reduces in volume, allows you to hear that note, comes back in, right? So that was a rubbish explanation. Now we've got the ducking set so that it's really obvious, and here we have a curve for how quickly the ducking kicks in and how quickly it buggers off. If I set that to slow, in fact, it would be better demonstrated if I played a chord and then an arpeggio. So that's set quite slow. Right, now a faster one. Right, but then you can set it so that it's not really particularly obvious. right? Now, but we're activating it with this kick drum, making it pump. So we want it set really, really prominent. Okay, right, now section 3. This is where we get our shimmer effect or a harmonizing kind of effect. So what we have to do, if we want to use this section, we need some feedback coming into it. So we're sending some signal back into, don't twat your mic, Jamie. So we're sending some signal back into the effect unit. So and depending whether you want it to be doing like a harmony kind of a sound, or whether you want it to be doing more of a shimmer kind of a sound, you move this control. All the way around to the right is more of a shimmer, and to the left you've got your harmony sound, and you can blend somewhere in between the two, which is really, really nice and effective. So for the harmonies, we've got two harmonies basically. Let me just set them both in the middle, so they're both at 12 o'clock, and then I'll just play one note. Right, now if I move number 1 up 3 notches, right, I've got a harmony note, a third, minor third. So hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, so that should be a fifth. And so on and so on. And you can have lower harmonies or higher harmonies, and a nice, safe, foolproof way to set it if you are having a jam around like I was at the start. I didn't really particularly know what key I was going to be in or anything. So I just set it so that I had an octave on this one. And then I set a low octave on this one. Now on this section we also have diffusion. Actually, this might be easier to show you if I show you something else first. Right, so what you can do is you can have another multi-output bus just to send this section to. So let's set that up. So I'm going to go to effects slot and multibus instances, multi-out, and that should be Altezza stage 3. Okay, let's bring it over here so I'm not constantly piss-panting about. Now if I mute this, this should mute off the rest of the reverb and we'll just have the shimmer part of it. So this is really, really useful because it means what you can do is you've got your reverb, and then you can use a fader in AUM to bring in your shimmer. So if I leave that muted, then I should be able to show you the shimmer section quite effectively, because that's all you're hearing. Right, okay, so adding more feedback into the unit. this works okay on the harmony section, but if you wind too far around to the reverb, to the shimmer side of this control, you can end up with a swell that may destroy your ears, headphones and speakers, as Dean would say. So be careful with that, or you'll have Dean after you. Right, so we have diffusion here. That's what I was going to show you. Right, so my diffusion all the way down. Bring it up a little bit just to show you. And on maximum. Right, now we have a low pass filter on this, because whereas normally I would say that a high pass filter is incredibly helpful on a reverb, a low pass filter on the shimmer section is very, very helpful, because you can end up with a bit of a swell of incredibly high frequencies. So if I could just try and make that happen. Right, and then bring this down. I'll bring it all the way down so it gives you a dramatic kind of example. Alright, so that's really, really well thought out. That's a fantastically useful addition. Now I'm going to bring the feedback down so I can show you the other side of stage 3. So I'll wind round to the shimmer side, and let's have a pissy pants about with that. Remember, you're just hearing the shimmer section there, and of course normally what we'd do is we would blend that in. So if I just bring a bit more feedback into that section, I've changed key for some reason. A bit more diffusion on there. Okay, now let's unmute this. I'll just play the normal reverb. Then we'll blend in that shimmer. Now, when I first looked at this, now I was trying to set up, I set up the multi-output bus, I got that working, and then I was trying to set up the side chaining to make the ducking pump thing, and so I added another bus, and I didn't seem to be able to connect it up. So I closed the multi-bus for the shimmer, and then I added a multi-bus again And when I looked at the options at the side of it, then I had the option to connect it where I wanted it to make the ducking do its thing. So I connected that up, but then I went to see if I could then add another multibus out for the shimmer section, and I could. So maybe you just have to do it in that order. I don't know. It was my first time trying it, and doing it that way around, it worked. So have I missed anyone? Because I've been rattling away, and I have, yes. Hi Peanut Cram, hi Farm, hi Grant, Gerald. Thanks very much for joining us. Now I'm going to ask a question when I've just checked what time it is. Just a moment. Okay, I'm going to ask a question before I talk about the next bit, because I've got to be honest. The time that I set aside to kind of get to the bottom of Altezza and understand everything about it completely before I did a stream on it, I just ended up losing that time because of all the problems I've been having with LumaFusion. But I have managed to get my head around all of it, except for this one thing I was talking about earlier, which is the filters here. So if anyone, Samuel, knows all about how this works, right, and you want to put it in the chat, then by all means go ahead and do so. It's usually Samuel who knows every single last detail about every single app. I've told him he should have his own channel called Ask Sam. The man who knows. That's what he should call it. The man who knows. Anyway, right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a tinker about with it and let's hear how it sounds, even if I can't explain exactly what it does. All right, so at least I'm being honest about it. So I have, right, just in case you can't see this, because this will probably be a little bit small on the screen, so we have a little grey band here, and in it says all pass filter, well, it says APF for stage 1 and for stage 2 and for stage 3, and you can change that between 1 and 8 for every section, I believe. Yes, 1 and 8 for every section. Right, so section 1, we have one filter. Let's change it up. Right, so that's with 3 filters on. I can't see. 5 filters. 8. So, does anyone know what it does? More filters, fuller sound. Should be quite easy to hear. Yeah, that is easier. It is easy to hear, Samuel, yes. It sounds to me, now let me just have a good... Sorry, don't want to be having a candle on camera, do we? Right, so it sounds to me like, right, on one filter like that, I've got a nice reverb, but when I increase the amount of filters, it's almost like the reverb is, it's like a number of reverbs stacked, is what it sounds like to me. Okay, so let's take it back down to 1 in stage 1 and take it up to 4 in stage 2. All right. Yeah, as you add more, it's more of a wash. It's more of the movements in the reverb are less distinctive, and it's more of a, it's just more of a big wash of sound. What about if I put all those filters back in on stage 1 as well as 4? That's something else, that, isn't it? It's beautiful, that. You don't have to be able to play an instrument, you don't have to be able to play guitar, as long as you can play a chord. It's marvellous. Okay, right, Samuel is speaking. Density goes up as well since there's more delays. Yes, okay. That makes sense. Oh, you've reminded me of something. You've reminded me of something that I intended to do. I've got 10 minutes. Okay, right, let's have a look at this. The last set of filters. I'll take the extra filters off the other one. Right, so this is for stage 3. Oh, let's mute that signal, and we'll just have the shimmer signal. Right, so now that that's soloed, I'll take that up and I'll yeah, it's nice and thick, that. Let's just bring the diffusion down a little, just as they phase in like that, it's sort of like a waterfall of reverbs. Wonderful. Right, I'm going to increase that diffusion, bring this back down a little bit. I'm going to go back into Altezza, and I'm going to just turn them all on all the way up. Now the original signal of my guitar is now more buried, but that's not an issue because we have this dry out. Okay. Right, what I wanted to do was I didn't have time to experiment with this before the stream. I really wanted to. I just wanted to throw spatializer in there, and I've pressed the wrong button. I really wanted to throw spatializer in there and then stick it in front of the reverb. I'm just reading what Samuel's saying whilst I'm playing. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, Samuel. So Samuel is saying is that the why am I playing honestly? So what he's saying is that this control, the SRC or source, I presume it stands for, this control determines whether the pitch shifters are applied before or after the reverb. So if I wind it round to here, that's why. Turn the guitar up back. You're allowed now. That's why we get that harmonizer sound, and then at this side we get the shimmery sound. Somewhere in between. Alright, so yeah, so that's Altezza. It's pretty magic, isn't it? It sounds absolutely stunning. It's massive, but it can, remember, it can be used for a very subtle reverb, you know, for regular kinds of recordings. You just have to tame it back a lot, and the presets are all kind of quite they're all quite dramatic sounding reverbs that just show it off well. I mean, you know, for me, for my money, a good preset is designed to sell the app. That's what it's there for. You know, once you've bought it, you piss pants around with it yourself and make your own sounds. But it's like when I used to work in a music shop, you know, the presets on all the electronic gear, or in fact on guitar multi-effects and stuff, they're there to sell it, right? Like you go on a distorted sound and you put a chopper on and play a power chord and it sounds amazing, you get this incredible sound, but like nobody actually uses that sound. Like, what track are you going to use that in? Anyway, I've digressed slightly. So thank you very, very much for watching this evening. It's been a bit of a upside down kind of a couple of days for me, and you know, I just I should have had a new video out by now. I honestly just cannot stop playing while I'm talking. I should have had a new video out by now, and it's really kind of done my head in, the frustrations I've had with getting this video out. So when I finish this, I'm going to be watching Doug's stream and at the same time trying to get my video to finally export. And when I do successfully get it to upload, there will be a new video from me all about the new segments. Well, it's a tutorial on segments and the whole thing, but also featuring the recording in function, which has just been added, and the supersonic in-app purchase. So thank you very, very much for joining. I really, really appreciate you being here. Sorry about me sniffing up and wiping my nose and sneezing constantly. It's just yeah, it would have to start doing that just before a live stream. Thanks a lot. Thanks ever so much, Vortex, for my first ever super chat, which is really, really nice of you. Thanks a lot. I will see you all later. In fact, I will see you in Doug's stream. Bye bye for now. Take care.